my bucket list. I don't know if you watched my video about my bucket list for my dream vacation, but I had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items on my bucket list. And I will refresh your memory here as I go through each one. Did I do them all? Did I do none of them? I did some of them. And I'll let you know at the end, when I've gone through the list, how I did. First on my list was fish and chips. Did I eat fish and chips in a pub? The answer is yes, I did. I think just once in a pub, but I ate them about 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 times, and they were delicious. Some were better than others. I'm glad I had them as often as I did, and it was spread out, so I didn't eat them like 4 days in a row or anything, but the fish and chips were very good. And one day, I think I mentioned this in my Bletchley Park, Oxford, Wallingford video. In Wallingford, I went to a pub and it said fish goujons, I believe is how you say it. It's a French word, and I asked the young lady behind the bar who was taking my order what that word meant, because I had no idea. And she said, oh, goujons, that is like fish fingers, fish goujons. So I said, okay, I'll have that. It was a sandwich with chips. And I was thinking it would be French fries, chips. But it was potato chips, and they were good. But it was just a little different. And I thought they'd call them crisps, and they did not. So here are a few pictures of my fish and chips meals that I enjoyed. And I have to say, I had regular peas once, and it was just like a little ramekin dish of green peas. They were good. I like peas, but they weren't anything special. But 2 other times I had mushy peas. And in one place, it was in Galway. I'll show you a picture here of that meal. The fish and chips were okay, not great at all. In fact, they weren't that good. But the mushy peas were delicious. I really liked them. And here's a little video I took after having the mushy peas. I was so excited about liking them. I'm in Galway, Ireland, and you know what? I love mushy peas. I just had some with some fish and chips. The fish and chips were okay, but I loved the mushy peas. Knocked that one off my bucket list. And my last night of my whole trip, I was in Dublin, and I went to a pub, and I had fish and chips there with mushy peas that were minted. And I didn't like them as well as the plain ones that I had in Galway. They were good, but I didn't think the mint was necessary. I didn't enjoy it as much as the flavor of the mushy peas I had in Galway that were just kind of like a creamed pea, concoction. Kind of tasted like split peas, and that tasted really good to me. And I'm going to segue into another item on my bucket list. Did I have a pint in a pub? Sort of. I had a Guinness that same night in Dublin, my last night, because I hadn't had a beer the whole time. I didn't drink any alcohol until that last night, and I thought, okay, I do want to try Guinness here, because I had been to the National Irish Museum, and across the street was the Guinness Brewery. I didn't go tour it or anything, but it looked like a very big industrial plant. Like maybe they made concrete there, maybe they made widgets, I didn't know, but it was the Guinness Brewery. So they made beer there. And I thought, when in Rome, have a Guinness. Or when in Ireland. So I asked for the smallest glass possible of Guinness. And the man behind the bar, bartender person, brought me a tiny little glass, maybe 4 or 6 ounces. and it wasn't warm. I was a little leery of that, but it was chilled. It was wonderful. It tasted really good. So I'm going to say I did have a pint in a pub. It just wasn't a tall pint. It was a very small pint. It wasn't a full pint, but I don't care. I had beer in a pub in Ireland. The next item on my bucket list I'll talk about is, did I walk across a bridge in London? Yes, I did. I went on a very cold day to me and visited the Big Ben, clock tower. I saw the London Eye and the large building, very impressive. I don't know if it's the House of Parliament, I'm not sure, but I walked across the River Thames on, let me look at the name of the street, Great George Street. And I walked along it with about a million other people. It was not what I had in mind. I kind of filmed my feet because I didn't want to get a bunch of people in the video. It wasn't enjoyable like I had envisioned it might be, but I walked across it. And actually I walked about halfway across it and turned around and came back because it was so crowded and it was cold. And I could have walked all the way across and walked back, but I did not. So I'm going to say I walked across it because I walked across half of it twice. That's kind of like the whole thing, right? Close enough. I'm walking across a bridge, over the River Thames. This was on my bucket list. This is the River Thames right here. I'm not gonna drop my phone. But I will show you the London Eye. And there's a bus. And back here is Big Ben. I also walked across a river in Ireland, in Dublin, the Halfpenny Bridge. I thought it was Halfpenny because that's how it's spelled, H-A with an accent, space, penny. But I looked it up and it's Halfpenny Bridge over the River Liffey. And the official name of the bridge is the Liffey Bridge. So I walked across that and it was very pretty. It was much smaller, not as many people. So I'll put a very short part of that video here for you to see. I'm going to walk across the Halfpenny Bridge in Dublin. Corner so you can see it from the side. Very pretty. So I walked across the River Thames, and whatever river this is, I really don't know. I'll have to find out. Next, I'm going to talk about, did I go listen to Irish music? I did. Again, this was not the enjoyable experience I had hoped it would be. I was in Galway for 3 nights, and I had seen a sandwich board sign outside of a couple different bars or pubs, and sometimes they didn't start till 8 or 9 in the evening, and I wasn't going to go back out at that time. Sometimes I get really tired and I go to bed early. And I thought, no, I need to find one that's not so late. I saw a sign where they had live music at 5:30 and at, I think it was 7:30. So I went to the 5:30 one, and I got there about 5 thinking, well, I'll get a beer and sit, and try to get a good seat, be able to listen to some music at 5:30. Well, the place was packed. there was nowhere to sit. And it was so loud in there. There were people partying. It was the weekend. Again, I mentioned this in my Galway, Ireland video. I shouldn't have gone to Galway on a weekend. I didn't know, but it was just so crowded with people partying. Hen parties, probably stag parties, just people getting out of town, maybe from Dublin, I don't know. But it was party central, and I didn't enjoy that at all. I don't like crowds. I don't like noise. So I left. Got there at 5. I just left. I thought, I am not sitting here, or standing here in that case, because I had to stand for half an hour. So I walked around, and I came back about 5:20, 5:25, and I just went ahead and stood next to the bar. There was a very nice gentleman standing there, and I asked him, is it always this loud? And he goes, oh yes. And he was having a beer, just standing, because there really weren't a lot of seats available. I guess if you watched somebody get up, you could grab a seat, but I knew I wasn't going to stay long. I cannot handle that kind of racket. Just don't like it, don't need it. And a little before 5:30, several people walked in with musical instruments. There were 6 people total, 5 men and 1 woman. Most of them had violins. One guy had a drum, and another one had a stringed instrument like a guitar, I think. I didn't see the front of it, but I think that's what it was. And so they all were shaking hands, introducing themselves to each other. So I don't know if they just sign up to play and they all get together and play and don't know each other ahead of time. But I thought that was pretty cool. They all knew the songs, so they just played. And when they did start, it was probably about 5:40 when they actually started. Nobody shut up to listen. Everybody just kept partying and being loud and screaming and, having a good time. It drove me nuts. It was like, you can't hear the music. I was right there. And it was very disappointing. So I stayed for 2 songs, and it sounded good, what I could hear of it. But it wasn't a relaxing, way to listen to Irish music in any stretch. So I listened to it. I heard Irish music in a pub. Check. The next item on my bucket list was charity shops. We call them thrift stores here in the U.S., but on the shows that I watch, they say charity shops, and I love a good thrift store or charity shop. And I was lucky enough to find them just about everywhere. In Wallingford, England was my first visit, and I will show you a quick clip here after I had visited a charity shop, or before, I don't remember. Guess what I found in Wallingford? A charity shop. I went in here and I found a down vest, and I bought it and I put it on, and I had the guy take the tags and cut them off while I was wearing it, and it is so warm. Best 8.5 pounds I've ever spent. So it was great getting to find an Oxfam. I was thrilled to find an Oxfam charity shop, and I bought cards. I bought things that were very small and flat and that wouldn't take up much room in my suitcase, because I, had a very tiny travel backpack because of my coming home on Icelandair, which requires very small luggage unless you want to check it. I didn't want to check it. So I was buying things that I could either wear or that would fit in my luggage. And I found quite a few things, and I, didn't have any pound notes or coins. So I was using my credit card for everything, and I hated charging like 85 cents or 85 pence or whatever. So I would buy a few more things to make it a couple dollars at least. And nobody batted an eye. It wasn't a problem. But then later in Bournemouth, when I met my friend who took a cruise over, we went from Bournemouth to Poole. And we were going to walk to the harbor, but we ended up just walking along this area that had all kinds of charity shops. I bet we hit 10 or 15. They were just all over the place with other little shops. And I found quite a few small things to buy, and I really enjoyed the charity shops. The things for sale were really nice. It wasn't junk. It was clean. All the clothes that I looked at were in great shape. I'd say they have better stuff in their charity shops that I saw than we do here in some cases. Because, you know, sometimes there's things that aren't in great shape at thrift stores here. I didn't see anything like that. It was all in good condition. And if I lived there, it would be a problem because I would shop at them a lot. So check that off my list. I loved the charity shops. Okay, we're down to number 6. We have 2 more to go. The next item on my bucket list was to walk across a fence or wall or use some kind of gate, like a kissing gate or a stile that they use to keep cattle or other, sheep, any kind of livestock from going through, but people can get through. And sometimes it's a little ladder or steps up over a fence or a wall. And I did not get to do this one. I will show you a picture here of one place I stayed that had a sort of a different kind of gate. It was like, here was part of a little piece of fence, and then on this side it was kind of like there was a distance between them. It was set back, and an animal would have had to think about, walking through it. So I'm going to consider that sort of, but it wasn't really what I had in mind. So I walked through that one, but it wasn't really a style, I wouldn't say. So I did not do that item on my bucket list. And the last item, number 7 on my bucket list, was either watching or playing a pub quiz, like trivia night at a pub. Didn't get to do this either. I did see a couple signs for pub quiz, and I will put one here. So that was exciting to see, but I was on a bus going through a small town, and I wasn't going to be stopping at that small town. So that was a little disappointing. Oh well, I would have loved to have done that, but I did not. So in summary, I did 5 things on my bucket list and did not do 2 of the things. I think that's pretty good. Did you think I would do them all? I was hoping I'd do them all, but I didn't, and that's okay. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my bucket list and what I was able to do and not do. And if you liked this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. I really appreciate everybody who watches my videos and listens to me rambling, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I know I get carried away, and I appreciate you hanging in there. So I will see you next time.